locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Pinat. All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go! Donoso with a crafty maneuver up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count out Danny Berezne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Borman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Good evening everyone and welcome to PSGL. We are back for some more F2 spicy action. My name is Corey. I'm one of your two commentators joined with you this evening. Join with me in the comms booth, it's Omi, your main co-commentator.
Yes, hello Corey, hello everyone. Excited to be back for another race of PSGL. All races this season have been brilliant, and I'm sure Budapest will be just the same. And qualifying is just beginning. We've got a big rush heading onto the circuit, so could there be some rain on the way in qualifying later on?
Could be, absolutely. So now switches on to the game screen so you can see these opening minutes of qualifying. All the drivers currently on the track, so you don't want to miss this one. So we are now track side, and a Haas driver to be the first to start the lap. The white car being out at the front. I'm just trying to figure out, is that Riccardo Benzoni? I think it is. So we are now currently on board with Riccardo Benzoni out leading this huge influx of drivers who have absolutely caned out of that pit lane, got themselves onto the track. The weather looking mighty grim, as has been pointed out by Omi. So it could be potential on the tables for a very wet qualifying to come. But now everybody's rushing to set their bank of laps, and Riccardo Benzoni is looking mighty fine as he comes around turns 8 now, swinging it around turn 9. One of these corners get mighty tight and treacherous. It's been very known to be a tight twisted layout, a ghost kart style track if you would. But now Riccardo Benzoni looking to come and set the benchmark. He gets it around turn 12. The U-bend of turn 13 separates him from the last corner. The U-bend to the right once again of turn 14. All in all, looking like a fairly clean and decent lap, looking to set a decent banker. We know he is a very fast driver. He won in race 1 out in Silverstone and sets a 12.9. Gets jumped immediately by your previous race winner, Joris Krozen. Won in Spain last week. It was a nice race to see and a perfect drive from the Alpine driver.
Was absolutely brilliant indeed from him as the laps come across the line, and this could be the grid. This could absolutely be the grid because we've seen such a rush from the drivers to get out of the pit lane. We usually have a little bit more of a calmer start. Camel Starter is in the pit lane. It seems like he's just gone in right now, but we have a bit more of a calmer start usually. Everyone's gone straight out, so that could be indicating some rain is on its way. So these laps could be critical, and if the rain is coming very shortly, a great time. But the Alpine man looking to be the race winner in Hungary, and right now at the stand he would start on pole position for it. And then we have Bottas behind Riccardo Benzoni and Julian Klaffenbach in second and third, Jan Holiday in fourth, and then Tycho Hardy currently sits in fifth position.
Tycho Hardy, currently being the championship leader, failed to have a good race last time out in Spain, finished only 15th, so his points stay exactly as they are, but he still leads the championship. Burley, might I just add, just leads the championship. There's only around 11 points separating 1, 2 and 3. Julian Klaffenbach sitting there in second place and Leo Lund in third. Leo, the only driver out of the top 3 in the drivers' standings who scored points out in Spain, finished in P8, so managed to bag 3 points, as are the PSGL points positions. We have our own custom point allocation, as a lot of drivers know, but Kamil Stachura now looking to go out on an outlap and potentially get his Ferrari in the mix. Has he done it within the right time? That is the question.
Going to be the question indeed, as we see all of them rush back to the pit lane, but rushing out onto the circuit is the Red Bull and the Ferrari of Riley McKay and Camel Statra. Let's see, will they be able to get a lap started, and they'll be hoping that they can avoid any rain if it is coming. That is going to be on its way. 12 minutes and under 50 seconds to go on the clock right now. An interesting start to the session so far, as Leo Lund currently sits in P15. He also has turned 15 today. Happy birthday to the McLaren man. Let's hope he gets rewarded with a good race, but I'm sure he doesn't want to be in 15th position when it comes to his final result. Let's hope he's able to bump himself up in qualifying if he gets a chance to, and then also in the race later on as well.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to Leo Lund, the man who sits in P3 in driver's standings, only around about 11 points behind the front. So he could potentially get himself back into championship contention with a good race today. Hoping that Tycho Hardy can fail to score points once again, as well as Julian Klaffenbach. Klaffenbach sitting in second, only got 17th in Spain, but has scored consistent points and is a season 37 race winner, might I add. Won the second race out in Miami. So it's looking mighty fine in terms of drivers being up there in the positions. It's still fairly close. Like I said, the top two drivers failing to score points last time out, so it could potentially open the door for Leo Lund.
So definitely do so indeed. We see lots of changes in PSGL when it comes to when it comes to the races. We see lots of mixed up orders from qualifying, and then lots of hard work to do in the race, which can also lead to contact as well if you are trying to make your way through around a circuit like this, where it can be pretty tricky in a DRS train to get through. It's tricky wherever we go in a DRS train to get through, especially around this circuit. Of course, a huge braking zone into turn 1, and then sometimes the battles can get very risky on the exit of turn number 2 into 3, and if drivers are feeling brave, down to turn number 4 as well.
Absolutely, like you say, turn number 4 is a prime overtaking spot. If your rival just misses his brakes by that slight amount, can push him wide onto the outside apex. Turn number 4 being one of the trickier corners to master. If you carry too much speed and pick up that understeer, you'll most likely invalidate your lap, or if worse in a race scenario, pick up that infamous 3-second penalty, which can drop you down the order dramatically, especially in F2. The drivers so close together, it's tenths and thousandths, it's mere thousandths that separate most of these drivers. Every qualify, every race, they are so packed together. We saw huge DRS trains from the start of this season all the way down to last week's race. There was around about 19 drivers caught in a huge DRS train going around Spain. But now we are around Hungary. It's a lot tighter coming through the Hungaroring. 4.381 kilometers with 14 turns, 8 to the right and 6 to the left. So it is a bit of a mix of left and right. The right's having a little bit more of an impact, so could potentially show its case in terms of tyre wear and degradation. We see a new fastest lap set by the Alpine driver himself, Krozen, 12.8. So he's now almost a 10th clear of Kian Gordendorp, who sat in second place in his Williams, jumping ahead of Julian Klaffenbach. Klaffenbach, being in P2 in the standings, has been dropped out of P2 in qualifying.
He has indeed, as we see, an extended advantage at the top of the table, of course, as you mentioned, from Joris, and then it's Kian Gordendorp who's been able to displace the two Haas cars as well to some critical laps. Coming in, Jan Halliday now goes to second place in the Aston Martin, so a good time there from him as well. 9 minutes to go on the clock. Still, we're left wondering whether the rain is going to come in or not, because as I mentioned, we have seen a rush all the way throughout this session so far to get some lap times in. So are we going to be getting some late rain is going to be the question in this one, but they're all rushing out, rushing back in to the pit lane very, very quickly, and of course we can see the clouds in the air also indicating to us that some rain could be coming as we continue then to see the cars come into the pit lane from their in laps, and then if anyone does have any time, and if the rain does not come, we will see them go back out there for a push as well. But great time from the drivers at the front of the field. The Alpine of Joris definitely looking very good so far throughout this session.
Could it be 2 on the bones for the Alpine driver? 1 out here in Spain. Now can he win in Hungary? Could he make it 2 in a row and jump himself up the standings in terms of points? He's currently sitting right about 8th position, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of driver standings. Those 16 points from last week certainly doing him a huge favour in terms of championship position. Certainly pushing himself up into the top 10 and could potentially be on the ball for another race victory.
Indeed, out back on the circuit, Kamil Stoutra, our pole sitter, of course, from last time out. It was a disappointing result, though, in the end, getting caught up in the battles for him in the mid-pack. As we mentioned, it was a very chaotic race, which led to some safety cars. The game was even telling us that we had a safety car when we were green flag racing as well. That's how crazy it did get. Even for the game, back out we go on the circuit, not only for the for Camel Starcher and the two McLarens, but also everyone else trying to, but now coming back out to get their runs in underway. But Camel Starcher will be one of the first few to get it underway, along with the McLaren, as Kai Pearson now comes across the line to begin his lap. Could be a hit with a bit of traffic though as we go down to turn 1.
Could be traffic indeed, but he manages to get himself past what could be Felipe Salza though, coming out of the pit lane as gets that rear wing wide open and fires it down into turn 2 as he gets himself prepared to swing it back around turn 3. The right-hander, again, if you hit it wrong, can push you just outside of track limits, but he's looking good. Finishes first sector up by a 1/10.5 on his current time. Oh, he's invalid! There it is, it's called. Turn 4. I mentioned it earlier, the McLaren driver just running it outside a little bit wide, carrying too much speed and picked up that understeer. It is bound to happen around Hungary. Again, the go-kart style layout with its tight and twisty corners have claimed a driver to invalidate a lap as he sits down at the bottom of the grid. Needs to do something to slap his McLaren in contention.
Definitely will need to. That is not what you want with your run being interrupted there with an invalidation, and it means that you have to go round again and you'll need to come back into the pit lane, do another outlap, and with time running out as well, 6 minutes to go on the clock, so time is ticking. You'll be able to get back out there, but definitely not what you want.
Camille Statura, we just caught the back end of his lap, slaps it up in P3 with a 12.9, so he's only round about 7/8 hundredths of a second away from pole position, but Joris is on the track and looking to potentially extend that pole position. He's not currently up on his time. He was down by 300ths, but it's the fine margins that matter. Can he pull it back and potentially gain a little bit more now as he does set purple sector 2? So he's pulled back those 300ths. He's 13 thousandths over on his time, but it's the fine margins that matter, especially at this level of racing. These Formula 2 drivers, the F2 tier is mighty quick as Riccardo Benzoni steals pole position there, slaps his ass up there at the top. It's a 17.9, but here comes Crozen, improves, but not enough to respond to Riccardo's Benzoni's lap. He is currently sitting on pole position and has also been a race winner in round 1 in Silverstone, so Riccardo Benzoni looking to snatch some well-needed points, potentially put himself into standings.
Exactly what Benzoni needs as well. This time Crozen not able to respond like he was able to do in the first, in the second run, and he will need to try come up with something right in the dying minutes of the session if he is to take pole position away from the Haas. Haas have looked strong all throughout all of these runs so far. Both of their drivers have been up in the top 5. Julian Papenbrock still sitting in fourth position, but now they've got a car on pole, and of course with pole you get 1 point for it, so definitely can be critical here in PSGL when it comes down to those fine margins at the end of the season, when it comes down to adding up all of the points and seeing who's won the title. It always comes down to a few points, so if you are good in qualifying, then that can and you get quite a few poles in the season, that could basically win you the title. So in addition, of course, for this season, as we already mentioned and talked to you about throughout this season so far, but a point for pole currently heading this way.
Absolutely correct. Gets that extra point for slapping it on pole, does Riccardo Benzoni. All the points needed, as kindly pointed out by Omi. But Tycho Hardy leading the championship standings at the minute. Set a lap, only good enough for P7, a 12.9. There's quite a margin that separates the top 10 here. It's almost a 10.5. Just a little bit more on Riccardo Benzoni's lap, and the top 10 are separated by a 10.5. So it's not what you expect. You expect the gaps to be a little bit closer than they are, especially with this level of racing. We've seen thousandths of a second separate a driver from the position in front of him. He certainly will be kicking themselves over these extremely fine margins. You just need to push that little bit harder, get on the throttle a little bit quicker, get on the brakes a little bit later. But it again comes down to you are pushing so hard that it's just a thousandths or a hundredths of a second that separates you from your rival ahead. The fine margins make all the difference, especially in these scenarios. So now we go back on with Kai Pearson, struggling down in last place, but he's the first to come out once again on an outlap with 2.5 minutes remaining in qualifying. It's currently looking like Riccardo Benzone will take pole position, but he does come back out to see if he can improve that lap. Still doesn't feel safe against Joris, maybe even Daniel Kelsden, who could come back into the final part of qualifying, sitting himself in P3. Half a tenth. It's all it takes for that pole position. Just half a tenth.
Indeed, definitely. It always comes down to those close margins as well in qualifying, and you cannot be safe when you have everyone else attacking out there on the circuit at the same time, with the track improving all the while. We haven't seen the rain that maybe some would have thought from the look of how they were all heading out, and of course the look at the clouds. So the rain hasn't arrived, and it means that the track still will be getting rubbered in with all 20 cars all attacking it, and we've seen quite a few runs, more than usual as well, in qualifying. So it means that you have to definitely be careful, and the threat could really come from anyone. Of course, you've got Frozen, you've got Daniel, you've got Julian Klaffenbach, Jan Halliday in the top 5. But the threat really could come from anyone who's able to spring the surprise late on. So who is going to be able to spring the surprise late on? It's time to find out, because they're all beginning their final runs in qualifying.
Absolutely, the rest of the drivers are starting to set their lap, but we are on board with Kai Pearson, one of the first drivers out early to try and get that jump, get that clean air and stay away. Well, saying the clean air, it doesn't make a difference with that. I just remembered the ghosting is on to stop that unfair slipstream. So we've mentioned it before in the streams, I'll mention it again. There will be a lobby restart after this qualifying session, and we'll turn the ghosting back on it's back off, should I say, so we can get the drivers racing properly. But in qualifying, we want to try and keep it as fair as possible. But it's now Kai Pearson who's coming around turn 12 and 13 even, coming around 14 to finish what needs to be a drastic improvement on his lap, and it's a 13 flat, just shy of Brad Holdham. He don't know if he will have the battery to go again, but at the minute, that's all the McLaren can muster. Brad Holdham is off the track and moving out of the way. He has abandoned his lap. So it's Camille Stachura who jumps up on pole position. Half a tenth, round about 600ths clear from Riccardo Benzone, but Benzone is on his lap and crosses the line, improves by a fine margin, but does not take pole away from Camille. Who is next to potentially challenge? Joris, one of the drivers we know to be fast, improves and goes pole by 0.07 of a second. The fine margins seriously doing it for the Alpine driver. Camille Stachura, a man who's been known to come and snatch pole positions away in the final laps in the closing minutes, has been jumped by the Alpine. Joris sits on the top spot once again.
Fantastic stuff. Camille Stachura did it last week, as you mentioned, but today it is not going to work. The Alpine has been able to find a response, as you mentioned, by thousandths, able to take pole position right at the end. A phenomenal lap, and it's going to be Joris who will start at the front of the field on this for this race. Camille Stachura will be hoping for a bounce back from the race that he had in Spain last time. He'll go from second, and then the Hasses find themselves in third and fourth, which is around the position they've been for most of this qualifying session. Harvey Cohen will complete the top 5. Interesting grid for what should be an interesting race.
Nice to see Harvey Cowan getting himself up into P5. A driver that is a reserve driver, but I just want to point out, he has reserved in 4 races so far. He's managed to grab himself a seat and get in the races. So he's certainly making his name out here, getting himself out here on the track, and proving to be one of the drivers who has what it takes to race with the F2 drivers here. These fast, talented drivers. But this seems to be your qualifying finish. Joris Krozen, who's a race winner last time out in Spain, takes pole here in Hungary.
Indeed, as he tries to search for 2 in a row, but it should be a drilling race. They'll have a lot of strategy to contend with, but just look at those margins. We have the top 7 all separated by a tenth. Amazing.
Amazing stuff. The top 7 separated. So Joris, Camille, Julian Klaffenbach, Ricardo Benzoni, Harvey Cohen, Toppe, Kian Gordon-Dorp, Jan Halliday, Daniel Kelsden, Rishan Jacobs, Tycho Hardy, Nelson Alvarez. That's your top 12. And I should bring us back to the cam screen now as we await the lobby restart. Well, it will be the lobby restart, should I say. Everybody now needs to retire as we get ourselves back into the lobby, refresh everything, set the grid order, make sure everything is good, and get that ghosting turned back off. So now the racing is going to start. This is where things start to get a little spicy, but now that we have a minute to talk, I shall pull up our standings. So as you can see there, Tycho Hardy leading. His points haven't changed from last week out as he only finished 15th in Spain. Did not get the finish he wanted. Leo Lund sat there in second position, has actually jumped Julian Klaffenbach. Sorry, I thought he was still P3. Turns out he's not. He's now sitting in P2. Julian Klaffenbach sat there in P3, dropped down from having no points again in Spain, but it was Leo Lund who managed to snatch a couple of points away. Only 3 points he got. Well, oh no, it turns out... Never mind. A second before the race was going to start, I forgot we was on a restart, my bad. Had a bit of a brain fart moment, you could say. Seisman Lukomsky, not racing tonight, the McLaren driver, but has certainly got some decent points. He was one of the drivers to get himself in a bit of a mix and put himself up there in standings, potentially in a position to take race victory. Ricardo Benzoni down in P5, one of the drivers who looked mighty fine today. 16 points. Liam Stevens again with 18 points even. Brad Oldham in 7th, Rishan Jacobs in 8th, and there, Joris Krozen, those mighty 16 points coming from Spain. He managed to pull a victory in the Spanish GP and finally get some nice points, putting him in 9th in the standings. And Kian Gordon-Dorp sits there in 10th. But as we now await, we just wait for the drivers to sort of retire and get themselves back into the lobby. But we're now back with the cameras, and on that note, actually, we could take a quick look at the calendar. So currently at Hungary, off to Japan next week, Jeddah, Mexico, Belgium, Monza, Qatar, and Brazil. So quite a mix of tracks, certainly to put the drivers under a bit of pressure. Tracks that could test your might, test your skill in a way and your talent as a driver. Japan being one of those. Jeddah as well, a track known to have around 27 corners, the walls being mighty close together. Mexico, one of the faster laps to set here on the calendar. You can certainly get a good lap in it. It's quite a fast lap as well, providing all goes well. So another shorter track, but on to Belgium. Spa-Francorchamps after that, and it is the largest track on the calendar. So quite a big lap to do, a lot of places to make mistakes and a lot of spicy overtaking opportunities. Monza, one of the fastest tracks, if not the fastest track on the calendar aside from Austria itself, which you saw in round 3. And then on to Qatar, a very fast, twisty, a lot of corners, left and right, left and right. You're constantly fighting the car through the high-speed corners of Qatar, and then on to Sao Paulo of Brazil. So the calendar is looking mighty interesting, especially for the drivers in F2, all these talented fast racers looking to potentially take a championship away. Tycho Hardy needs to get some good points here today in order to defend against that Alpine. Joris Krozen is coming fast. Oh, we've lost you there, Omi. Omi, we've lost you, mate.
There we go. Hopefully that should be sorted now.
That is sorted. You are back. Welcome back. There we are.
Lovely stuff. Just had a little switch around with microphones, as it seems like on my other Discord account it was all glitching. So yeah, apologies if there is a little bit of lag, but utility will definitely be better. So yeah, exciting qualifying session, an interesting race coming up, an exciting calendar as well. Always a PSGL calendar is definitely very exciting, with lots of amazing races which some drivers will shine in, some drivers will not. Every driver, of course, their own preferences. So it's always interesting to see that play out throughout a season. And this one, of course, some drivers will once again enjoy. We, of course, have the technical middle part of the lap as well. So definitely quite a bit of skill is needed for this challenging circuit, and one also challenging if you do start further back. It is a bit challenging also to make your way up through and gain positions. Overtaking is very tricky, and that's definitely what, if you are outside the top 5, you're going to be trying to do today, plus also doing it cleanly as well, because we have seen a lot of races throughout the season so far undone due to contact.
Absolutely, you can say, as you say, contact costing a lot of drivers their races completely and utterly, sending them down the field and losing out on vital points for the championship. But before we get ourselves set up and ready to go, we shall take a short break and hear from one of our sponsors. As I bring you back to our lovely commentators' corner, I can now confirm that the lobby is about to start and get underway as we get ourselves ready for the Hungary Budapest GP. The Hungaro Ring, 4.381 kilometres long, 2.738 miles, 14 turns, 2 DRS zones. These 14 turns are mighty spicy indeed. 8 to the right and 6 to the left. You're on throttle for around 50% of your lap, so we can only hope that this is going to be a mighty close, fine battle to come.
That is exactly what we are going to be hoping for. That we're going to get a phenomenal race that goes all the way to the last lap. We love PSGL races that go all the way to the end. We've seen that all the way throughout this season, and hopefully we're going to see it once again here in Budapest. And we are going to definitely, it's going to be a defining race once again in the championship. If you are able to get a good race, and also if your rivals are involved in contact, then you are able to just get a little bit off advantage in the championship, and that can definitely help you build momentum. But we've got so many talented drivers. It's always changing around race on race on who is looking the quickest. So it's definitely going to be one that will go all the way to the end, as we currently make our way then into the just and we're now just going to get the drivers to get their setups all bolted on, of course, decide their strategies as usual. Hopefully we'll get an interesting race when it comes to the strategies too. But yeah, we'll work that all out on the opening lap on who's starting on what tire, but a bit of a mix, but a little bit of a mix when it comes to the tires could give us also an exciting race.
Absolutely correct. The tyres, everybody having all the fresh softs, of course, as we've had the lobby restart. So they could burn away all 3 sets, burn those medium tyres in the qualifying session if they needed to. Because when we get ourselves ready and lined up on the track, on the grid, the tyres have been reset. The lobby restart, seeing to that fairly nicely for our drivers. So the drivers certainly love to have the extra tyres, love to have them at their disposal just in case of the infamous SC. I don't want to put a commentator's curse down upon it. So we shall wait and hope for the best. With it being such a tight, twisty track, could you see it happening, Omi, potentially?
Absolutely. We've seen safety cars come out.
Oh,
due to
the
debris.
lights are on.
We could be getting it. Here we
Could
go.
be getting it. 5 lights. The lights now fully illuminated. Out and away we go. Oh. We have one driver eliminated already. Everybody is ghosted. Everybody's ghosted. We have drivers retiring. I think the ghosting has not been enabled. Oh no, it's a disaster on the start here. Well, I'm going to bring you back to the cam screen. Commentator's corner, because at the minute we've had a bit of a boo-boo in restarting this lobby.
Indeed. We will need to shut up the lobby once again. Everyone will just retire. But yeah, everyone was ghosted when we got racing. So that setting was not disabled from qualifying. So we are just going to get that sorted a little bit more off a wait. And then we'll hopefully be able to bring you the Hungarian Grand Prix. But does give us a little bit more time to preview what should be an exciting race. But yeah, we've seen some. But to finish off my point earlier, we have seen some safety cars even due to debris. So yeah, we could be getting some crashes. We could be getting some drivers into the wall. There's plenty of parts of the circuit where we could see a crash, especially when they're racing at high speed. So yeah, a chance of a safety car definitely likely, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see one as well.
Well, again, the surprising factor though, we could potentially see that safety car coming. We can hope that it doesn't come. We can really pray that we don't end up with the safety car and we get real good hard racing all racing long. But in the meantime, we shall take another quick look at the standings to see who could potentially be within the chance of victory. We saw that it was Crozen once again taking pole position, just snatched it away ever so slightly. What do you think could happen here, Romy? You got any predictions? You know these drivers a bit better than I do.
All I can tell you is, even if I've commentated on these drivers for quite a bit, all I can tell you is there's going to be many drivers in contention, and it's absolutely wide open. So, it means that it is very hard to predict here in PSGL for who could be a winner, because as we've seen throughout the season, our pollster could be ending up in sixth, and then and then suddenly has a moment and is out of the race. So it can all change around quickly, and calling a winner is basically impossible in PSGL PCF2. I think the qualifying margins proved exactly that.
Absolutely, qualifying margins did prove that it could be anybody's game. All the drivers very close together, and as you say, you can't guarantee one race victor, as you cannot. The last 4 races you have had here in F2, you've had a different winner every GP. The racing has been different every race. Some drivers adjusting to tracks better than others. Some drivers certainly having the upper hand. But you had Ricardo Benzoni winning Silverstone, Julian Klaffenbach out in Miami. You had Rishan Jacobs take it in Austria, and then Joris Krozen last week in Spain.
Indeed. So we are now just beginning. It won't be, of course, as long of a delay. It won't really be too much of a delay at all, as we are once again loading into the race screen where the drivers will once again bolt on their setups, and we'll get all the strategy and all that sorted. And then we'll go into the same procedure of we'll look to the 5 red lights, and the race will get underway. So not much of a hold with this little mini delay that we have right now. After we've, of course, after we took the 5 red lights, we'll have an attempt to, and hopefully we will be able to get going this time as well. But with how the races have been this season, even if we have had some delays, they've definitely been worth waiting for, and we get rewarded with a good race.
Absolutely. All races have been so different. All the fighting has been so close. The fine margins that separate these drivers from just standard ordinary leagues to being here in F2 in PSGL. They are some of the best and most talented drivers out here on the grid. But the lobby is now reset. A very, very quick restart just to turn that setting back on. And now we go into the main feature.
For these drivers, of course, to have a good season. Of course, you have all of the teams from the F1 Sim Racing Championship watching on as well, and trying to see who's the next best talent, kind of like how Formula 2 and Formula 3 is in real life. But we get to see more drivers promoted to, even if it's the 3rd driver role, of course. So we see more drivers being picked from this series as well. So it's always great to see who is definitely the next few talents who could be performing in the F1 Esports Sim Racing World Championship as well. So let's see then how the drivers are going to do in this race. And we're about to find out because the 5 lights are coming on.
4, 5, that is your 5th light. And as we await, the lights are out, and away we go. We are set to go here at the Hungary ring, and it looks like Joris Krozen has had a good start. Julian Klaffenbach straight away fighting it out with the Ferrari, gets ahead. As you see, top here, the Red Bull making contact with the Ferrari, just getting a bit too close. Bit of a controversial moment though. A lot of moves happening up and down the order as they fight into turn 1 and exit it. Round now, turn 2 we go. Drivers still side by side looking for the inside and outside line to make the moves up. Tycho Hardy up into P10. Leo Lund was in a bit of a moment there. He's down into 18th, but managing to get past Riley Mackay. So at the minute, certainly a bit of a interesting start as we see the Haas lock out 2 and 3 on the podium. Kamil Statura has had a bit of a wobble on the start. Felipe Sousa now was up and down the order under attack from the Aston Martin. Gregory getting past. So it's a bit of a mighty start here. The lap hasn't even finished and we've already seen quite a few changes in the racing order.
We have seen quite a few changes indeed. Brad Holdham, the only driver on those soft compound of tyres, as we also see Jan Halliday being past Valentino Labella on those mediums, trying to go around the outside. About between mediums and hard should be won by the mediums at this stage, and is Valentino Labella does get through. We've got a massive split. Brad Holdham has dived into the pit lane to get off those soft compound of tyres as we now make our way down towards turn 1. Move still going on. That's going to be Felipe Sousa, the Brazilian driver, going to the inside and retaking the position that he lost on the opening lap. He goes to 15th place.
Felipe Sousa in the second Alpine. His teammate still leading the charge currently. Joris Krozen out. Had the pole position, but he's not bridging too much of a gap as he'd like to. He's just 3/10 separate him and Julian Klaffenbach. Klaffenbach also a race winner out in round 2. A driver known to be fast and currently sits P3 in constructor standings. Needs to beat Joris here. He needs the points in terms of standings to get himself higher in the order and potentially defend against what has been a bit of a dominance from this Alpine driver. Joris winning last time out in Spain, qualifies P1 here in Hungary and could potentially take a victory providing all goes well and clean in his favour.
Yep, indeed. If it all goes clean, definitely could be the case. But there's going to be lots of hurdles for him to deal with, and he's already about to get one because the Haas driver behind is going to have DRS, and that will not even be a contest. Down into the first corner with DRS enabled, bit of ERS being used as well. Julian Klaffenbach takes the race lead on lap number 3, and he takes P1 as well. Another thing that drivers do have to be careful of, if you are a leader of a DRS train, and if the whole field is close, if you get passed down to turn 1 and the driver behind is very close as well, you could get passed down to turn number 2 because we have one detection zone zones around this circuit, so it can mean that you could be losing a couple of places in one lap.
Absolutely correct. You say the one DRS detection zone, and it is just before turn 14 as you get through the third sector. Gives you that double dose down the pit straight and gives you it again coming round turn 1. But the minute Joris has almost got a half-second loss to Julian Klaffenbach, that Haas driver really sending it here around the track, and he's looking to potentially snatch a victory away. He's a very talented fast driver. We've seen him before on the track do some amazing things, but he's right now looking fairly strong to put the pressure on Joris. Harvey Cowan moving up.
Now start to see a couple of pit stops.
Oh, he's in the pits.
Yep,
never mind. Early pit stops. Lap
Cowan
4.
nearly hitting the back of Riccardo Benzoni.
Yeah, it was very close there. Almost.
Nearly contacting to the pit lane. Sorry, Corey.
It's all right. Yeah, very close there. Nearly contacting the pit lane, as you say. Was just caught the back end of that on the stream, but we are now on with the Red Bull driver. Top A sits there in 4th position. I wonder why people have opted to box so early. Lap 4, getting off their starting tyres, and now onto the hard tyres for a longer stint. It's a bit interesting. I don't particularly see any drivers losing too much time, so it doesn't look like wings have been changed.
Indeed, so a very early pit stop to go a long way on the hard compound of tyres. Of course, the strategy will switch. We do get a safety car in this one, which we've already talked to you about earlier on in the build-up to this race. If we do get a safety car, then we would probably expect them to go off these hard compound of tyres and move on to the mediums or the softs, depending on the length that we have remaining in the race. That's always definitely very interesting to keep an eye on. But they've decided to pit very early. We'll take these hards to wherever they need to.
Oh.
And we're now also going to see our top 2 dive it in to the pit lane as well.
This is very interesting. The Ferrari Kamil Statura stays out and takes the lead of the race. Everybody getting off those medium tyres. I don't think they like them. I think the mediums are just a bit too, I don't know, maybe burning out a bit too quickly, quicker than they expected. This is certainly flipped on its head. I don't think it's meant to be this early. I'm certainly sure that this is not something that was planned. This is not something in the strategy call. From mediums to hards after 5 laps.
That is something that you don't see unless we get safety cars, and we didn't get a safety car, so yeah, very early. So will be interesting to see what's the reason that they're all deciding to come in this early into the pit lane, because as we've already mentioned, it's not something that we would see unless we do get a very early safety car, and it's worth it as well to make a pit stop.
Absolutely correct. The earlier safety car would potentially bring those drivers back into possible contention, but it will be certainly a two-stopper for those guys from here on out. But I've seen in the chat that potentially, they have overheated and the drivers have swapped them out. So there is the possibility they have overheated and they've swapped those tyres out, gone onto the harder compound tyre that can handle a little bit more heat than the mediums can, but it will be a two-stopper from here. I will quickly pull up the tyre graph once again after that little bit of a strange pit stop strategy situation, so we get a bit of a better look at who's on what tyre in what stage and when they box. So Riccardo Benzoni was one of the first to box. They are 2 laps old now, those hard tyres.
Indeed, retiring in the pit lane is the Mercedes of Brad Holden. Disappointment for him, the man who crossed the line first in Austria, but due to a penalty was stripped off that victory, and unfortunately there will be a retirement here in Budapest for him. But yeah, so we have Tope and Felipe Salza both on those medium compound off. Charles Leoland's got a penalty, but we have Tope and Felipe Salza on those mediums, so they've decided to stick it out there, try something different compared to all of the other drivers who started on the mediums. And then we've got the hard runners, of course, continuing on to go longer in this one, because they, of course, need to go much more longer in this one as well.
Absolutely. Extending the stint now certainly is going to be on the cards. We see Tope jumps into the pits, gets off those medium tyres. The drivers that have started on the harder tyres seem to be benefiting the most here. They have stayed out as the rest of the grid who were on the mediums have boxed and got straight off them. So the temps are certainly something that is causing great difficulty here around Hungary. The track temperature just too high. The medium tyres cannot handle it and have overheated dramatically in the opening stint. Everybody swapping to those hard tyres, looking to try and better their race any way they can. The hard tyre can handle a bit more temperature, well, I say a lot more temperature in terms of the compound. So it will benefit. Oh, Camille Stachura there had a bit of a moment coming through the chicane.
He did indeed. He's got a 2.2 second advantage right now over his teammate Ferrari 1-2. As it stands on the opposite strategy right now, so all of these guys, so the top 9 on the opposite strategy to the drivers who started on the mediums. These guys have started on the hards. They're continuing on the hards as we would expect from them as well. And then it's 9 seconds back to the leader in the drivers who've made a pit stop. So it's Joris in the Alpine, who leads by 0.4 of a second in that scrap. That's right now only for P10, but will be for the net race leaders. We see a switch as well for second position right now. Jan Halliday moving up to second place. There's also a switch further back. Kai Pearson's got past Riley McKay for 7th position, and Kamil Stoutra has got away. Kamil Stoutra's got away from all of the other drivers in that train right now as well. So he's got a good 2-second advantage. And it's now going to be Jan Halliday trying to hunt him down, but the train goes from 2nd all the way down to 6th position in this battle.
Absolutely. Camille Stachura bridging that gap and having all that clean air. Also knocking the drivers behind out of that DRS, something they may need to try and fight back, as the Ferrari driver Daniel Kelsden, his teammate, can stay pushing up to try and keep the pressure on that Aston Martin driver and hold him back that little bit longer. This is certainly looking like a team game here. The Ferrari Daniel has held back those drivers a little bit just to allow Camille to fly ahead and get into a perfect position. But as Omi mentioned, the drivers who have pitted are closing that gap dramatically. 7 seconds separating Julian Klaffenbach from Leo Lund.
Over the line we go once again. But indeed, the gap is coming down, and they're all DRSing each other all the way as well, which means they're also getting that advantage. We're about to come over the line and see another switch in the battle for 10th right now, which is for the next race lead, and the Alpine back through. So these guys closing in dramatically, 6.2 seconds. So the gap that was 7 when Corey last spoke, now it's gone all the way down to 6. So all changing very, very quickly, and it'll continue to as well. But Leo Lund, it's 3 seconds off as well, Riley McKay, so that's a further few seconds that they will need to push on if they are to get to the main drivers that they will be aiming to do. And then it's Riley McKay, Kai Pearson, and then after that, if you push a little bit more further, 3 seconds, you'll finally get onto the battle for second, which by the time they clear those drivers, Camel Sartre will probably be pitting, so they may not need to get past Camel Sartre because they'll be stuck in traffic, and it can be a little bit hard to get past around this circuit at times. So we'll see where the overtakes come, but they are gaining dramatically on Leo Lund, at least for the time being, and then they'll need to push a few more seconds to get to some of the drivers higher up right now.
Absolutely correct. Leo Lund certainly being the man to hunt down. They catch that McLaren, they push on, get past the Red Bull. It's just Kai Pearson separating them from the battle. That little DRS train up into P2, but as we know, they have opted to stop early and get on those hard boots. So hopefully, with all going well, Camille and those runners from P9 upwards who haven't boxed and done the same strategy as those behind can use this to their advantage. When they box, they need to push like crazy to try and catch back up to that bit of a DRS train from Julian Klaffenbach all the way down to P18. So it's P10 to P18, the DRS train clearly from those who have pitted early to try and swap out those overheating medium tyres, those terrible medium tyres not working for the drivers on the track this evening. But up to now, Kamil Stachora still bridging that 2.4 second gap, and he's staying ahead nice and bonny. The drivers certainly separated by quite a lot, but it's Nelson who's getting mighty close at Williams, looking to potentially overtake Liam Stevens and put the pressure on for P3.
Indeed. So that's what they will be trying to do right now. Now the gap is 2.8 seconds right now. One of the fascinating things in this race, of course, the traffic, which can also separate. While we are going to see a pit stop for the hard runners as Joris retakes the position, it is going to be interesting to see, will we see any separations between the drivers on those hard combat tires who've made a pit stop so far? Are we going to see them separated? Because as we mentioned, getting through the traffic, some are going to be able to get through, pull away, and then you're stuck all the way throughout the rest of the circuit if you aren't able to get through into turn 1 or turn number 2. So we'll see some gaps forming between the drivers who've made a pit stop so far. So that will be interesting to see where you pass the car and where you catch the car at the same time. So that will be an exciting battle coming our way to see where the drivers are going to be making the moves. And if you are going to get through somewhere in the middle part of the lap, always the risk is there.
Absolutely, you try and fight through in the middle part of the lap. The Sector 2 being quite technical with a lot of slow and fast turns. You've got to be very gentle with the car and make sure you don't cost yourself any time and try and push on to take positions. But now we are looking at Julian Klaffenbach as that gap has now closed right up to 1.3 seconds. Joris ahead. You can see the McLaren there, just ahead of the Alpine driver. He is within striking distance completely and utterly, within eyesight of the drivers behind. But it looks like Julian Klaffenbach is going to once again pass Joris, making it easy with the DRS. Gets himself through into turn 1 and sets sights on the McLaren. He is within DRS striking distance.
At this point, you wouldn't mind being the first driver behind, because if you're able to get through and everyone else gets stuck, then you can form a bit of a gap, and he is stuck right now in the middle part of the lap, but so is everyone. Let's see if he can try and make some move in this middle part of the lap. He'll try and have a go all the way around the outside. He should have the grip, but he'll be run out of road, and that's not what he wanted, and it could open the door for the Alpine, and does. Joris goes through, and now he'll be the one to attack Leo Lund.
Absolutely correct. Joris Krozen making the most of that open door. He's now swinging to the out, looking to the outside there. Leo Lund keeping himself defensive. The Alpine is pushed wide on the track. All of those drivers now bunching up to the back of that McLaren. The Hasses almost coming together. The Hasses are probably going to go side by side as they don't, but he does open the door for Harvey Cowan. The reserve driver who sat in 4 races so far gets past Riccardo Benzoni and certainly puts himself into a position. We see there, they're all getting past. Leo Lund conceding that position or losing it out to a couple of drivers. Those hard tyres are dramatically more worn out than the rest of that grid. They all boxed early, but as you can see, a monumental battle there. He looks like he could try and potentially fight it back as he does make it side by side. Gets past Julian Klaffenbach, but Klaffenbach is literally trying to fight it back. Still has the overspeed, has the traction, gets the power down a little bit better and sends it through into turn 2 and gets the move done before we even see the exit of turn 3.
Absolutely phenomenal action, but that is not what these drivers wanted. It's cost them plenty of time. Leo Lund doing all he can to defend. Riccardo Benzoni is pushing him through and trying to gap where he can make the overtake. Into the chicane we go. But yeah, the Alpine of Jost is momentarily sideways, now getting to the inside. Will that be the position finally gained for Riccardo Benzoni, who tries to get through? And Leo Lund defends, forces him off the road. Now Riccardo Benzoni will get the inside line. He'll go through. He won't be the only one. Kian Godendorp, and we're also going to see Rishan Jacobs in the recarb go through, and nearly losing the car is Leo Lund, which we would see is defending for his life right now. And Tycho Hardy stuck behind. He'll once again have a go. Benzoni has got a penalty, a 10-second penalty for cutting the corner and gaining a place. And Leo Lund is going to be passed from Hardy. He'll be passed by Toppe, and he should also be passed by Felipe Souza. But that was definitely some brawling, and it'll still continue down towards turn 1. We're going to have DRS for Toppe, who's gaining on Tycho Hardy, who is nearly making contact with Tycho Hardy. Kian Godendorf gets through up to P12. The action's behind though, and it's Tycho Hardy.
Oh, big contact! Felipe Souza!
And Felipe's off.
Big contact for Felipe Souza there. I think he did have the damage on does have wing damage on that front right side, no end plate. It has been disastrous for the Alpine driver. There was a huge contact. I didn't quite see who he had made contact with, but he was sent round, pushed off the track, and he's now 2 seconds. He's now only just behind the McLaren driver, Leo Lund, dropping all the way down out of that fight after a massive brawl, as Omi brought to your screen, commentated over every part of it. The moves being made left, right, and centre, but it's Leo Lund losing out completely and utterly with his current strategy. Those hard tyres are burnt out, worn out. They do not have it to continue on in this stint. He needs to do something about it soon. He's dropped all his positions and now sits at the back of the grid.
Yep, absolutely. I wasn't able to catch that one further back because there was so much action at the front of that train as well. As we see Harvey Cohen make the move, and Harvey Cohen making a move right now for what is the lead of the drivers who have made a pit stop so far. So Harvey Cohen has fought his way past Julian Klaffenbach. He's fought his way past Joris as well. So fantastic stuff there. Kian Godendorf has got a 1.7 seconds advantage. That's what we were saying, of course. Sorry, a 1.9 second. He's far back from Julian Klaffenbach, so he's lost that time in all of that process so far. So I mentioned we could be seeing a few gaps formed as Rishan Jacobs tries to make a move on Riccardo Benzoni, but it was so close to contact and nearly, and we did see contact in the end for Felipe Souza, unfortunately, but there was so many moments where a car could have been sent spinning round, and we...
Riccardo Benzoni, though, has just picked up... Riccardo Benzoni's just picked up a 3-second penalty once again. P13 could drop down to P16, 17 at this rate if Riccardo's not careful with the way he's driving his Haas. But the drivers ahead not pitted as the teammate of Kamil Stachura, Daniel Kelsden, gets past the Aston Martin as he now needs to try and defend a little bit more. That gap closed by a couple tenths to Kamil Stachura, but now it's a Ferrari 1-2. Beautiful for the Ferrari team. Perfect strategy so far, maintaining the lead and staying out on those harder compound tyres while the rest of the grid at the back boxed. Toppe now looking to put the pressure on Tycho Hardy. Your driver's standings leader. He's having another disastrous race. He's down into P16. Can he do anything about it on lap 16? Can he fight his way back through the field? Toppe is out of the DRS from Rishan Jacobs, so now needs to try and defend against that kick Sauber.
That's exactly going to be his goal as well. But yep, not what Taika Hardy wants. Currently down, as you mentioned, in P16. Luckily for him, his nearest rival is in P19. But the man they've got to worry about is going to be Julian Klaffenbach, who is in that scrap for the net race lead as well, and he currently sits in 11th, but will be much more higher up when the drivers up ahead make their pit stop. So he could be one that takes quite a few points from this race, and that will definitely help his championship charge. But yeah, not what Taika Hardy currently wants.
Not indeed for the Kick-Sauber. He's losing out a lot of points at this current stage unless he can try and again make those moves and get himself up there. Julian Klaffenbach, again a driver who was pushed down to P3 in the driver's standings by Leo Lund, is looking mighty fine this race. He certainly brought the fight to the pole sitter. Joris Krozen, your pole sitter and race winner from last week. Oh no, Harvey Cowan has just lit up those rear tyres and sent himself off the track, but does get himself going again, has lost all that time to Joris and Julian now. It's 2 seconds he's lost. He's outside of that DRS and now has opened the door for a potential attack for Kian Gordendorp and Rashan Jacobs to come back and take that position away from him. He was looking good there through the stint of the race. He was getting himself into the mix and overtook Joris and Julian, but had a huge moment out of turn 1 and has dropped it all back down.
Such a disappointment for him, and he's going to need to work hard, and with working hard at the same time, he'll drag along Kian Gordendorp and Rishan Jacobs into the scrap as well if he is going to gain back on Joris and Julian Klaffenbach. But that's such a disappointment. As you mentioned, was looking so good at this part of the race and was looking good as well for the remainder of this race, but that will definitely hurt for him as we see some battling up ahead for the drivers who still need to make a pit stop. The Ferrari of Daniel is to the inside of Liam Stevens, who runs off the road, and that will be the position gained for Daniel. Not the only one. Nelson Alves also gets through on Liam Stevens, who went wide, of course, at turn number 1, hurt his momentum, and it allows the Williams driver to take the place.
Absolutely, the Williams now benefiting from that little bit of a wheel bang there as Liam Stevens was forced to run wide off the track to avoid any further damages to his VCAB. But it does allow the Williams driver and Nelson to peek through that open door and not lose any time. In fact, gain a place and make the advantage. But at the minute, things are still looking mighty fine. 17 laps remaining of this GP. 18 laps down so far. Everything is a bit all over the place. The drivers in positions you would not expect from a bit of a surprise strategy call with the pit stops. But they needed to get off those medium tyres as they were overheating quite dramatically, burning away and putting themselves into potential risk of spinning out or burning the tyre life away when they need it. It's all gone down to this. Leo Lund picks up a 3-second penalty, but he is at the back of the grid, will not lose anything as it stands.
Will not lose anything as it stands, indeed, of course, playing his part as well in the defence earlier on. So Leo Lund, while his race might be compromised, as we see another change, and through goes the Alpine once again, and that's a never-ending story, and Harvey Cohen finds himself now behind Kian Gordendorp, who's been able to get through exactly what we were telling you about, that mistake costing him massively, and the Williams now will be the lead driver in that train right now for what is 11th position right now. Will be higher when the drivers ahead do make their pit stop, but yeah, that one will hurt for Harvey Cohen. He will definitely need to really push on if he wants to recover back. And now Rishan Jacobs, who's looked like the driver who really wants to go on the attack when he was chasing Kian Gordendorp. Now he's going to need to put the attack on Harvey Cohen, who will need to look in his mirrors, because Rishan Jacobs seems like he wants to get that move done.
Absolutely, Rashan Jacobs, again, another race winner here in PSGL F2, one out in Austria, one of the 4 different race winners of this season so far. He's looking to potentially make some moves and earn some better points with his current position down in P13. We have Halliday jumping into the pits there, starting off the pit stop strategy for the front, for those drivers who have yet to pit. So, could he benefit here? A huge undercut potentially coming the Aston Martin's way for the drivers he was currently racing with, Camille Stachura and Daniel Kelsden. The Ferraris versus Aston Martin, but he does jump onto the medium compound tyre for the next 15 laps. Was it the right call, as Camille has gone 1 extra to hopefully benefit from this, but he was a bit ghosted there, so potentially had a bit of a moment as we put the camera on him. He's coming through the chicane now, 6 and 7, completed and out of his way, but he has lost quite a bit of time. He's dropping quite a bit of time as the back drivers though are starting to catch back up. His teammate dropped half a second through that little part of the track through 8 and 9, and also allows the Williams and VCAB to slowly creep back up and potentially take the initial position at P1, but with the current pit stop strategies will not be official P1. It will be Julian Klaffenbach, who currently sits net P1.
Absolutely, as we see Daniel dive it in, Nelson Alves dives it into the pit lane as well. Liam Stevens will be sent round again, along with Gregory, along with Kai Pearson and Riley McKay. Those drivers are all continuing on the last lap. Rish and Jacobs did have a go trying to get past Harvey Cohen. It was not successful on that occasion. What about down to turn number 1? He might be a little bit too far back as well, unless it's something under braking, which would be risky on lap number 21 out of 35. So it will be another lap of sitting behind the Kick Sauber car. That's in P9, as we have Jan Halliday in 15th, Daniel coming out onto the circuit just ahead of Nelson Alstev in 16th and 17th, and then we have Felipe Souza on those hard compound tires still, and Leo Lund 17.8 seconds back, not what the driver second in the championship needs, but it will be a round to forget, and a round that can only change right now as it stands. We'll need a safety car if it is to change though.
Absolutely, we'll need a safety car to bring him back into this race. He's 17.5 seconds behind his Leo London. McLaren has not had the best race so far. Hungary certainly being a bit of a struggle for the young McLaren driver. It's also his birthday, so maybe just a little bit disappointing for him. He's not having the race he'd hoped for, and feel a bit bad. It's his birthday. He should be out here enjoying himself, but 17 seconds behind. Can only hope to push on and wait for that late safety car, as mentioned before, to potentially bring him back into contention. We see all the drivers now, apart from Kai Pearson, pit off those hard tyres and try and bring those mediums back into the race and back to life. Julian Klaffenbach passes everybody and sits there in P2, which, as we know, is net P1 when Kai Pearson decides to pit. But he is on the harder compound tyre. I will bring up the tyre strategies for us so we can all have a quick little nosy at the tyre life situation.
Yep, so we're just going to be awaiting Kai Pearson to dive it into the pit lane, and then Julian Klaffenbach versus Joris will become the battle for the official lead on the circuit as well. Tope is given a penalty, and then we've got Jan Halliday, who we mentioned went early. He'll be trying to make the move, and he's going to make the move on the man who's just been given a penalty. Gets past Tope up to P8, goes the Aston Martin, so he'll be the lead driver right now as it stands on those medium compound off tyres, who will be looking to pass, who will be looking to attack. He's got a few cars ahead of him to do so. Camel Statra, who had a good gap at the front, went longer, and it means that he's right behind his teammate even, so Daniel is ahead. So both Ferraris will be looking to push on and work together to try and clear the cars that are ahead. But Jan Halliday finds himself in a good position as he is trying to make another move now, as we will go on to the start-finish straight. Should be another move coming for him. Both will have DRS. Benzoni's got DRS. He is going to defend that inside line. Go the long way around, he'll say, to the Aston Martin. Battle up ahead as well, as Kian Godendorf goes wheel to wheel with Harvey Cohen. Going the long way around. If it's a traction race, it will be won by the mediums, and it is. So Jan Halliday takes the position, and Rishan Jacobs has been trying this move for a while. Is he going to finally be able to pull it off? Trying to go all the way around the outside, which becomes the inside for turn number 3. They are so close to making contact. Are we about to risk it down to turn number 4, or is Rishan Jacobs going to back out of it? That is unbelievably brave. He has just about kept it on the road. Now he's going to get the inside line. A phenomenal battle between these two drivers, and Rishan Jacobs can finally say that he's got the position because he's through, and Jan Halliday now is trying to take advantage on the medium compound outside. Harvey Cohen goes over the chicane, comes over, and Jan Halliday sends it the long way around and goes through.
Absolutely fantastic racing here from the drivers in F2. You see Rishan Jacobs making the move and getting past finally. He's been trying it for so very, very long. Harvey Cowan is now starting to struggle dramatically on those harder compound tyres. Jan Halliday certainly making use of those fresh medium compound tyre around the outside. Beautiful overtakes, beautiful racing. Well, you can only see it here in F2. These drivers certainly bring in the show. We see Kai Pearson finally jump into the pits and get off those very highly worn out hard tyre as Julian Klaffenbach takes lead of the race and will hopefully, if he can, survive the next 11 laps. But I don't think it will go his way. Those hard tyres are mighty burnt out now with that early pit stop strategy call.
Indeed, Nelson Alves gets through on top A. Daniel gets through. Camel Stoucher also gets through in the Ferrari. Both Ferraris working together to gain the position. We've got the drivers on the hards going backwards. We've got the drivers on the mediums going forwards as we would expect. But Jan Halliday has got himself a couple of cars between himself and Nelson Alves. That is crucial. Is Nelson Alves going to the inside of Riccardo Benzoni? He is. And Riccardo Benzoni once again over the chicane. And now Daniel, is he going to wait in the... Is he going to steal the start-finish straight? No, he's going to risk it in the middle part of the lap, and he'll also be able to find a way through. Benzoni still keeping his foot in, though that was so close to contact between the two of them. And now we're going to see also a move possibly coming for Camel Stoucher, but looking down the inside, that could be close to contact. There is contact, and Benzoni spinning around momentarily, but continuing on a half spin for Benzoni, and that was 3 wide between the Ferraris in a Ferrari sandwich as Camel Stoucher also tried to make the move at the same time. So it all got very close in the middle part of the lap. That's the risk in trying to overtake in the middle part of the lap.
Absolutely, Ferrari sandwich. We just about caught the little bit of an incident on the screen there, as you saw. Riccardo Benzoni dropping down positions all the way down to P15. It's a stinker. But no, it's Gregory looking to put the pressure on against Tycho Hardy. Does get the move done. Those fresh medium tyres are mighty at this current stint of the race. Can the drivers maintain the push and maintain those tyres till the end of the race? I suspect those hard runners will come in for a soft stop to try and gain all that they can in the final stint, because all they're doing right now is losing positions and losing time. Those fresh mediums are moving and moving fast.
Moving forwards and fast indeed, as you mentioned. Jan Halliday isn't having to deal with those high risk scraps that others are currently in right now, as we saw between the two Ferraris in the background. Nelson Alves trying to go around the outside of Roshan Jacobs. Is he going to be able to do it? He's getting blocked left, he's getting blocked right, so he's still staring at the back and the rear wing of the V-carb that is sitting directly in front of him, and that's opening the door for the two Ferraris who are waiting for their opportunity. About to get tasty once again. Down to turn number 1. We're going to see the move possibly from Nelson Alves, and the Ferraris will try and follow through. Here we go. It'll be a battle on the brakes into the first corner. Roshan Jacobs is going to try and make an overtake of his own. He looks down the inside of Kian Godendorp and also trying to go through his Nelson Alves, who's found the gap, the slightest of gaps on the inside, which is now the outside, and he's not going to be the only one. So we're going to see the move for Nelson Alves, and that will be the move complete. Going around the outside of 1, going around the outside of 2, and Daniel takes P5. Phenomenal stuff. And now his teammate Camel Stoucher also has to clear the 2 cars and nearly hits the rear wing of the recarb of Roshan Jacobs.
Oh, he's had a bit of a moment there, lost the rear and opened the door for Liam Stevens. Liam Stevens takes an opportunity, capitalises on that mistake from the Ferrari driver and pulls on through. This has been absolutely exquisite there into turn 1. Nelson Alves just found that open door, took that line and sent it down the inside of both drivers as they were rough and tuffle, having that wheel banging, barging moment to try and keep themselves in contention, try and defend the positions. All they've done is lost out to one lucky driver who took that opportune moment and capitalised on their mistakes. Nelson Alves up into P4.
This race is going wild. It may have been calm once we saw some of the leaders pit in the opening few laps, but now it is exploding and we're about to see the move. First of all, we're going to see Daniel. He will take the position on Nelson Alves. Net second place right now at the moment. The 2 recarbs going wheel to wheel, and Camel Stoucher half spinning momentarily. He'll continue on, and that was once again a story of 2 teammates battling and a driver trying to get to the inside of it. Riccardo Benzoni has retired. That's in the pit lane. It's Liam Stevens who's got through on his teammate Roshan Jacobs, but Camel Stoucher lucky to still be in the race, pointing in the right direction right now and still be in 9th after that half spin. Lucky to continue on going. Gregory is in 10th right now. Riley McKay is in 11th. They're both also behind Camel Stoucher, but this race is really right now on the edge of losing your front wing and going round. The drivers have to be careful when they are trying to get through on the hard runners.
Absolutely, indeed. It is all coming off with only 8 laps to go. The drivers are making those moves and making them now while they have that tyre life, while they have that word to use. They are really pushing hard and looking to try and make every move that they possibly can to gain all the points they can. It's still very early on in the season, but we can only hope that all these point changes, especially with your leader sitting down there in P15, not scoring any points whatsoever, Julian Klaffenbach in P3, fighting it out with Joris Krozen. Krozen, a driver looking to sneak his way back up in the standings. This is certainly going to flip the order on its head. The championship has changed in 2 races. From Spain to Hungary, it has all been flipped on its head, and the championship standings could also be flipped upside down.
Definitely could as well. Gregory loses a car. Gregory battling with Rishan Jacobs, and the contact we were telling you about that could happen at any moment has happened, and Gregory has come off with a worse consequence compared to the other contacts we've seen so far. He is sent spinning and has lost a heap of positions and a heap of time. That is not what the Aston Martin driver wanted, who currently finds himself now in P16.
Gregory having a huge moment and not getting himself in a bit of trouble, not able to keep himself in that fight, but he is going again. He lost the rear ever so slightly, and he's now 4 seconds away, so lost a huge margin of time. But he now needs to hope and pray and beg for that late safety car to try and bring him back in, as Leo Lund has done very well to stay there. He is still almost 20 seconds behind, but he's had the faith and had the wanting to wait for what could potentially be a safety car as the fighting gets mighty dangerous. Just started lap 29, 6 laps remaining, and the front 2 are battling away like their life depends on it.
Indeed, but it could be a story of if they battle, they lose, because they could also open the door for Jan Halliday, who is going to be trying to close in. We're expecting them to close in, but how long will the mediums last without also getting overheated, issue which we saw earlier on in the race? So that's going to be an interesting story. Of course, they've pushed those mediums very, very hard, so they need to be careful. They cannot be costing each other a lot of time, or that, as I mentioned, will open the door not only for Jan Halliday, Daniel's also in the train, so is Nelson Alves, and then you've got Liam Stevens, and you've also got Liam Stevens closing in as well with the freshest tyres out of those 4 drivers currently from 3rd down to 6th, so they all have to be very, very careful, and not many drivers have been careful throughout this race, as we've seen in this latter stage of it. They've all been trying to get the overtakes because they've all been so critical, and we said that this could be a defining round in the championship. It's going to change it all around, and it's definitely going to be good news if you're Julian Klaffenbach, because you're going to be gaining in the championship, and you're going to be also be getting the race lead at the moment on lap number 30. But this will be a battle that continues between these 2 drivers. We have some incredible battling behind, and that's going to be Riley McKay trying to go the long way around of Kian Godendorp, and it was so close to contact between the 2 of them, and there was contact. Kian Godendorp has gone off. Kian Godendorp has gone off, so there was contact in the end between those 2 drivers. That is not what they wanted, and now Kian Godendorp is going to face the consequence of having to recover in this race.
I don't want to chalk that up to contact. That was mighty close, but from my angle, what I saw was maybe a bit too quick on the power, trying to defend. Was Kian Godendorp. We can only wait to see if there was contact, if there's any steward decisions to be made. You can find that out in the Discord later on, or you'll see it next week when we come back with another race. But in the meantime, Riley McKay is looking to stay with Kamil Stachura. Kamil Stachura 1.6 seconds behind Liam Stevens. But Jan Halliday, who went that 1 lap extra, is on the podium spot. That strategy has worked to perfection. Although those mediums certainly can't be feeling too good, because he's starting to lose time to the cars ahead. How could he be losing time on 11 lap old mediums compared to 26 lap old softs? Well, that just goes to show you how worn down they are, and he loses 2 positions as he's lost the DRS. It's easy for Daniel and easy for Nelson to take that P3 away from him, but he now will benefit from the DRS and can fight back.
That will be his goal in the final stages of this one, trying to fight back as well. So will he be able to do it is going to be answered in the remaining laps of this race. It's been a race that already was pretty chaotic, got very chaotic near the end, but of course we had a bit of a calm period when we were having all the strategies play out and we're getting rewarded with it right at the end. Gregory has set the fastest lap. That's because he has made a pit stop and is on the soft compound of tyres. Leo Lund also in the pit lane, so I wonder if he's trying to do the same as well. But right now, Gregory's teammate Jan Halliday, as you mentioned, being passed by Daniel, being passed by Nelson Alves, and he has lost already 7/10, so he'll be trying to stay inside the 1 second throughout this lap as well. It seems like he'll get it on this lap, but that will definitely be the goal for him next time around once again. So we're about to come over the line, and we will go on to lap number 32 in this race. Another change for the lead will be incoming. They're just switching right now. We'll look further back though, and it will also be an easy pass for Nelson Alves, who gets past Daniel. Both Ferraris going backwards because Kai Pearson, who's also got a penalty, but right now does have P7 as well, so he has been able to get through on Camel Stoutra, a race where it looked like that he was going to be the lead driver on the medium compound of tyres. He went late with this strategy on the first stint. It meant that he came out behind some of the drivers that he was battling earlier on, and some drivers that did not make a pit stop early on, and it meant that it's currently cost Camel Stoutra. He was left in the mid pack. He's been trying to get through on the hard runners. Some of it has not paid off for him, so it's going to be a fortunate finish in the end for the Ferrari of Camel Stoutra.
Absolutely, will get a couple of points to make up on Kai Pearson, with Kai Pearson having the penalty. He will jump ahead. But in the meantime, Joris and Julian Klaffenbach, 27 laps on that hard compound tyre. It is fantastic to see that they can still use those hard tyres at such a pace, keep it on the track. They're not too worn out. They can go the distance, but the time is started to drop a little bit with the Williams and Nelson as he pushes a little bit harder. And there is the DRS swap once again. The P1 swap once again. They just keep exchanging the DRS as we get to the closing laps. Including this, there are 3 laps remaining: 33, 34 and 35. So hopefully this is going to be just a 3-lap shootout. Nelson can push like hell if he can. If he hasn't burnt out those mediums too much. We already know temperature was an issue for the medium tyre, as we saw a lot of the drivers, Joris and Julian, both your front two box early for the hard tyres and have gone dramatically long, insanely long. He's done 27 laps so far on those hard compound tyres. They are working to perfection, and they still have 2 seconds from P3, so not under a lot of pressure. The only pressure they're under is from each other.
Indeed, and right now, of course, they're switching under DRS, and on the last lap, they will need to be careful because once again, the gap is 2 seconds, but with how the battling's been so far, it definitely can get pretty wild. If they're battling corner after corner, and the nature of the circuit, you will lose time, and it could open the door late on. So being third could also be critical still, even if you aren't in a realistic range to make an overtake, which Julian was. Onto the penultimate tour of the race, he has been able to get through. Daniel still stuck. He wasn't able to get the move done into the first turn. Kai Pearson's got through on Liam Stevens, who will not be able to fight back down towards the second turn. So we've got some exciting battles coming all the way at the end. And will we be able to see the fight back down towards turn 1 from Joris? And will he be able to get the move done? How hard will Julian Klavenbach defend? Because remember, we mentioned it earlier on in the race, Joris will get that DRS for both straight, so he'll have a chance to get the move done early and then also pull away. This is going to be critical in this race. Julian Klaffenbach is really going to need to go on the defensive. A phenomenal battle coming between these 2 drivers at the end of the race, as we also see Kai Pearson getting past Jan Halliday.
Gregory, weirdly retiring in the pits with only 2 laps to go. You'd think he'd just finished the race there, but maybe picked up a bit of damage and just thought there's no point anymore, sends it into the pits and retires. He leaves the session there, but now Joris is setting himself up. Crozen getting himself nice and close as we come around turn 14 now for the second to last time. He gets that rear wing open and pushes on for the lead of the race. He's close enough. Can Julian defend in any way, shape or form? The Haas driver is looking looking to push him all the way over as Julian now fires back to the racing line. The Haas driver looking for a potential switchback and does get the switchback, but Joris does benefit from the DRS. The Haas driver has taken back lead of the race into turn 1 on the exit of turn 1 after Joris had a bit of a moment and had to concede it there, but now Julian needs to defend like a lion. They've just got round turn 3, first sector out of the way, firing it round turn 4. Joris is just not close enough. Crozen is now etching a little bit closer there, coming through turn 5 as we get to the infamous chicane. 6 and 7, still half a lap to go. It's anybody's game. They just need to stay on focus, stay on their nerve and try and finish this lap. But for now, it's looking like Julian will take a second victory. He just needs to maintain his nerve and not let Joris, not let Crozen keep him under pressure or get any closer. 1.5 tenths separating the two. We're firing now towards turn 12. Round we go the left, the right hander, and they swing it round the U-turn left hander at turn 13. Joris is still not close enough, and I don't know if he'll get him towards the line. He will have the DRS for a brief second, but Julian is almost half a second clear as the Haas driver now powers down towards the line and crosses the line to win here in Hungary. Julian Klaffenbach, second race victory of the season. Joris taking P2 and Daniel doing it for the Ferraris sits there in P3. Your podium sitters are complete. And this time, it is not a new race winner. It is a race winner already. A driver from Miami who took victory in F2. The driver, Julian Klaffenbach, took victory in Miami, should I say. I got that out a bit wrong. But now has beaten Joris, your race winner from Spain, to take the second win of this season. A quite dramatic finish there, as Joris had a bit of a mistake and opened the door for Julian to take it back.
Indeed, first repeat winner of this season.
Oh, yeah, a bit crackly there, my friend. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, hopefully that's all sorted. But yeah, first repeat winner of the season. And yeah, we of course would have seen that Joris was in prime position to take the position. He did take it down to turn 1. He would have got DRS for the second straight, so you would expect him to get it, but a mistake cost him, and he had absolutely no drive out of the exit of turn 1, meaning that even with the DRS down towards turn 2 and pretty much quite a bit of battery as well at the time, still Klaffenbach was able to hold it. Phenomenal battling though all the way to the end, which we love. 35 laps and it coming down all the way nearly to the line as well. That's how close, and that's how they were pushing through that middle part of the lap and the final sector as well.
Absolutely, it almost comes down to the wire, but as we've said before, we can say it again, it's the fine margins that matter. So Julian Klaffenbach, another race victory for him. Joris Crozen, P2, it's not quite the win, but it's still decent points in terms of standings, and Daniel Klesden does it for the Ferrari. Nelson Alves in P4 after a masterclass double overtake, benefiting from a mistake from the two drivers that sit behind him. Jean Halliday P5, Liam Stevens P6, Riley McCain P7. Camille Stachura was looking good to be at the top of the field with his Ferrari teammate, but has had a bit of a moment and he's down into P8. Had a few little squabbles and wobbles with the rear end of his car, but it's Harvey Cohen in P9, the reserve driver, once again having a decent finish. Rashan Jacobs finishing the points there in P10. Valentino Labella, Tycho Hardy, Kian Gordon-Dorp, Kai Pearson, going down the list is Top A, Felipe Souza, Leo Lund, Gregory, Ricardo Benzoni and Brad Holdham will do your race finishers. But as now, we set ourselves off to the interview room and await to see if anybody would like to come in for a little chat.
Let's see if anyone would like to come in and talk to us about their race. And we, of course, had a lot of different races play out there, lots of different strategies. So yeah, the race went differently for a lot of the drivers in this one. Lots of strategy involved in this race. The drivers on the who started on the hards went long, then pit on the mediums. Mediums weren't able to do it in the end. So yeah, while of course we did see the pit stops very early from the drivers who started on the mediums, they nerfed the hard combat tires. Finally, I can get my words out. All the way to the end of the race. So phenomenal stuff by them. Of course, a lot of tire conserving and then a lot of defending late on as well.
Absolutely correct. So mighty Colossus battle going on here in round 5 in Hungary. One of those infamous tracks. It's got a lot of technicality to it and could certainly put you in a bad position, or if not, end what could be a stride to the championship. as Tycho Hardy saw the hard way. The championship leader has failed to get a decent points finish once again, could potentially lose out the lead here as Julian Klaffenbach took victory. 16 nice points to add to his total point accumulation, putting him up into what could potentially be lead of the drivers' standings. So the Haas driver certainly looking good to take what could be a championship.
Indeed, the next few races are going to be defining in this championship as well who is going to be able to get some momentum, because it seems like it's all switching around. Even if you have a good race and a good start to the season, you need to continue that round one all the way up until the final round of the season. So yeah, when it does come down to those final standings, the points are always close. So being on form and being consistent, even not taking the win, being consistent is always key, and also getting the bonus point for pole position always critical as well.
Absolutely correct. That one extra point for pole position as well as one extra point for fastest lap. So 2 extra points on grabs for the drivers if they can have the Grand Slam in the race, if they can take that pole position, get the fastest lap in the race and win the GP. So an extra 2 points on offer there for any driver to take those off each other. But at the minute, I don't see anybody in the... Bring us back to the camera screen. And on that note, we'll take another quick look at the calendar. So, of course, your next race being the infamous Suzuka Circuit, Sector 1 with its tight, twisty S's, is going to be a sector to watch. It's going to be mighty tight, mighty close. You thought it was close here in Hungary around those tight corners. It's going to be even worse in Suzuka. They're a lot more faster flowing, especially coming through Sector 1 and Sector 2. How do you feel about that, Ome? Going to Japan next week? It's certainly going to be an interesting race to watch.
Absolutely wild indeed. We're going to get an absolutely wild race coming our way in Japan. As you mentioned, it does get very tight through corners like China before here, but through 130R, it always gets close at Japan. There's lots of parts of the circuit in Japan where if we do find ourselves in a similar situation to today, we're going to see lots of desperate moves nearly basically every single corner off the circuit, so it can get very close. And even if we don't, we're just going to see an absolute brawl from start to finish. And it means that it's going to get close, and contact once again could be the consequence for one of the drivers if they do not keep it clean or get a bit desperate. But yeah, coming up, and then Jeddah followed as well, which is always very chaotic. You have the 3 DRS zones back to back to back, which means you get crazy racing. So yeah, some crazy racing guaranteed in the next few races, and be very exciting for us to watch.
Absolutely, very exciting indeed. But on that note, hopefully you shall have Sapit back with you. The standings won't hide themselves. Oh, it's not, it's the calendar. That's why I was pressing the wrong button. But yeah, I have been filling in for the past 2 races, covering Ben Sapsford. It's been very lovely to be here. Hopefully I could be back some other time. Thank you, Omi, for joining me tonight. It's been a lovely race to see with a lot of spicy action. A lot of drivers certainly making their names in the F2 tier in PSGL. But I'll hope to be back in this comms booth sometime soon. It's been very lovely to be here with you, Omi.
Yep, been lovely. You've done an absolutely amazing job filling in, and hopefully you'll be able to come back sometime in the future.
Absolutely. But on that note, I think we can call it here and end it there. It has been a very lovely race to see, a very fine spectacle here in Budapest. The Hungaroring certainly does bring a level of interest and some mighty close fine racing. Again, I'll say it again, it's a go-kart style track. It's sort of small in its little area, but also quite large in how much surface area you must, or how much track you must traverse, should I say. Tight, twisty corners and a lovely action-packed race. But yeah, thank you for that, and we shall see you next week.